The wrestling world just got flipped upside down and nobody saw this coming. Jacob Fatu, the Samoan werewolf himself, the absolute beast who has been running through opponents like a freight train with no brakes, just got laid out by someone we never expected. This isn't just another backstage brawl or some random attack during a promo. This is calculated, this is personal, and when you hear who did it, your jaw is going to hit the floor. Before we dive into this absolute bombshell, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're bringing you the biggest wrestling news that nobody else is talking about. The attack happened last week and the footage is absolutely insane. Jacob Fatu was walking through the backstage area, minding his own business after decimating yet another opponent in the ring. The man was on cloud 9, talking trash to anyone within earshot, reminding everyone why he's the most dangerous man in professional wrestling today. Security cameras caught everything, and what we're about to tell you is going to change everything you thought you knew about the current landscape of professional wrestling. Fatu was ambushed near the production truck area, a spot that's usually pretty quiet after the main show wraps up. The lights flickered for just a second, and that's when it happened. The attacker came out of nowhere with a steel chair, not the usual wrestling chair spot we've seen a million times, but a vicious, calculated strike that dropped Fatu like a sack of bricks. The sound echoed through the entire backstage area and people came running from every direction. Medical staff rushed to the scene while Fatu was barely conscious on the concrete floor. His cousins from the bloodline tried to get there, but by the time they arrived, the attacker had vanished into thin air. Nobody could find him, nobody saw where he went, and that's because this person knows every inch of that building like the back of his hand. The initial reports were all over the place. Some people thought it was someone from the bloodline turning on Fatu because that family has more drama than a soap opera running for 30 years. Others speculated it might be someone from his past coming back for revenge because let's be honest, Fatu has left a trail of broken bodies throughout his entire career. The internet went absolutely crazy with theories, Reddit threads were popping up every 5 minutes, Twitter was on fire with speculation, and YouTube channels were pumping out theory videos faster than you could watch them. But everyone was wrong, dead wrong, because the truth is so much better than any theory anyone could have cooked up. Here's what really went down and why this makes perfect sense once you connect all the dots. The attacker is none other than Bronson Reed. Yes, that Bronson Reed, the Australian powerhouse who has been quietly lurking in the shadows while everyone was focused on the bloodline drama and the championship picture. Reed has been on a collision course with Fatu for months, but nobody was paying attention because everyone was distracted by the flashier storylines. But if you go back and watch the footage from the past few months, the signs were all there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to put the pieces together. Reed and Fatu have history that goes way back before either of them made it to the big stage. They crossed paths on the independent circuit years ago in a match that got so out of hand that both men were nearly banned from the promotion. The match was supposed to be a standard singles bout, but it turned into an absolute war that spilled out into the parking lot, through the crowd, and ended with both men being carried out on stretchers. The footage from that match is hard to find now because the promotion tried to bury it, worried about liability issues, but those who saw it live still talk about it to this day. It was the kind of violence that makes you question whether you're watching a wrestling match or an actual fight to the finish. After that night, Reed and Fatu went their separate ways, each man building their own legend in different territories and promotions. Reed went to Japan and Australia, honing his craft and turning himself into one of the most feared big men in the business. Fatu stayed closer to home, working the American independent scene and making a name for himself as the most dangerous member of his legendary family. Both men eventually made it to the biggest stage in professional wrestling, but they managed to avoid each other for years. It seemed like that chapter of their lives was closed, that the violence and bad blood from that independent show was ancient history that both men had moved past. But here's the thing about guys like Reed and Fatu. They don't forget, they don't forgive, and they certainly don't move on from the kind of disrespect and violence they inflicted on each other all those years ago. Reed has been watching Fatu's rise through the ranks, watching him align with the bloodline, watching him destroy everyone put in front of him, and it's been eating at him this entire time. Reed knows he's just as good as Fatu, just as dangerous, just as capable of being the top monster in the company, but Fatu has been getting all the spotlight, all the opportunities, all the glory. That kind of thing festers in a competitor's mind until it explodes in the most violent way possible. The attack itself was brilliantly executed because Reed knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't just jump Fatu for the sake of jumping him. This was about sending a message to Fatu, to the bloodline, and to everyone in the locker room that Bronson Reed is done waiting for his opportunity. He's done being overlooked while Fatu gets handed everything on a silver platter. Reed studied Fatu's patterns, knew exactly when he'd be alone, knew exactly where the cameras were positioned, and knew exactly how to disappear before anyone could catch him. The man planned this attack like a military operation and executed it flawlessly. What makes this even more interesting is that Reed left a calling card at the scene. Security found a shirt with Reed's logo on it, deliberately placed where Fatu would see it when he came to. This wasn't Reed trying to hide his identity or create mystery around who attacked the Samoan werewolf. This was Reed making sure Fatu knew exactly who put him down, making sure there was no confusion about who had the guts to step up and challenge the most dangerous man in wrestling. Reed wanted Fatu to know that he's not afraid of him, not intimidated by his family connections, and certainly not backing down from the war that's about to unfold. The backstage reaction has been absolutely wild because nobody expected Reed to make this kind of move. Wrestlers are scared to even look at Fatu the wrong way because they know the bloodline will come down on them like a ton of bricks. But Reed doesn't care about the consequences, doesn't care about making enemies with the most powerful faction in wrestling, and definitely doesn't care about the target he just painted on his own back. Reed is from that old school mentality where you earn respect by taking what you want, not by waiting for someone to hand it to you. He saw an opportunity to make a statement and he took it without hesitation. Fatu's response is going to be absolutely nuclear when he recovers from this attack. The man has never been embarrassed like this in his entire career. He's always been the one doing the ambushing, always been the one standing tall at the end of every confrontation, always been the unstoppable force that nobody could slow down. But Reed just proved that Fatu is human, that he can be caught off guard, that he can be dropped just like anyone else. That kind of revelation is dangerous because it shatters the aura of invincibility that Fatu has built around himself. Every wrestler in that locker room just saw that the Emperor has no clothes, that the monster can bleed, and that's going to change everything about how people approach Jacob Fatu going forward. The bloodline is in damage control mode right now, trying to figure out how to respond to this situation. They can't let Reed get away with attacking one of their own without facing serious consequences, but they also know that Reed isn't some random jobber they can squash in 30 seconds. Reed is a legitimate threat who has already proven he can outsmart and outmaneuver their entire operation. The family meeting that happened after the attack reportedly got heated because some members wanted immediate retaliation while others wanted to be more strategic about their response. The last thing they need is to rush into something and end up making Reed look even stronger than he already does after pulling off this attack. Reed has been cutting promos on social media since the attack happened, and the man is absolutely fearless in calling out Fatu and the entire bloodline. He's not hiding, not running, not trying to downplay what he did. Reed is doubling down, tripling down, telling anyone who will listen that he's coming for Fatu's spot as the most dangerous man in wrestling. He's challenging Fatu to a match, anywhere, anytime, with any stipulations Fatu wants. Reed is essentially giving Fatu the chance to get his revenge, but on Reed's terms, because Reed knows that Fatu's pride won't let him back down from this challenge. The psychology at play here is absolutely brilliant because Reed has put Fatu in a no-win situation where he has to accept the match or look weak in front of his family and the entire wrestling world. The match that's being talked about behind the scenes is apparently going to be something we've never seen before in terms of pure violence and brutality. Management is reportedly concerned about how far these two are willing to go to destroy each other, but they also know that this feud is going to draw massive numbers. The buzz around Reed versus Fatu is already bigger than some championship feuds because people want to see these two monsters collide at full speed with no rules and no restrictions. This is the kind of organic, real-feeling feud that you can't manufacture or script because the hatred between these two is genuine and everyone can feel it. What's fascinating about this whole situation is how it changes the power dynamics in the entire company. Fatu was being positioned as this unstoppable force who would eventually challenge for championships and dominate for years to come. Reed just threw a massive wrench into those plans by proving that Fatu is vulnerable and that there's someone willing to step up and challenge his position. Reed isn't doing this for a championship or for a main event spot, he's doing this because he needs to prove that he's the alpha, that he's the real monster, that he's the man who should be feared above all others. That kind of motivation is dangerous because Reed has nothing to lose and everything to gain from this feud. The veterans in the locker room are reportedly excited about this feud because it reminds them of the old days when wrestlers settled their differences with real physicality and genuine intensity. This isn't some manufactured corporate feud with scripted lines and predictable outcomes. This is two legitimate tough guys who want to hurt each other and prove who's superior. The younger wrestlers are taking notes because this is how you get over in the business, not by being handed opportunities but by creating your own moments and forcing people to pay attention to you. Reed just gave a masterclass in how to elevate yourself by targeting the right person at the right time in the right way. The match between Reed and Fatu is going to be absolutely insane whenever it happens. These are two of the biggest, most athletic, most violent performers in wrestling today, and they're going to tear each other apart in ways that will have people talking for years. The potential for this feud to produce classic moments is off the charts because both men are capable of things that most wrestlers can't even attempt. Reed can fly off the top rope despite being nearly 300 pounds, and Fatu moves like a cruiserweight despite his massive frame. When these two finally collide in the ring, it's going to be like watching two freight trains crash head-on at full speed with neither driver willing to hit the brakes. The carnage is going to be beautiful in the most violent way possible. So there you have it, the mystery is solved and the reality is somehow better than any theory anyone came up with. Bronson Reed is the man who attacked Jacob Fatu, and he did it to start a war that's going to reshape the entire landscape of professional wrestling. This feud is going to be legendary, brutal, and absolutely unmissable. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our channel because we're going to be covering every single development in this war between two of the most dangerous men in wrestling today. The Samoan Werewolf just met his match in the Australian Colossal, and we're all going to witness something special when these two finally settle their differences in the ring.